He's angry about mortgages. It's Angry Mortgage. He's swearing. He's cursing loud. He's old. He's opinionated. And he's been doing this so damn long. This program is about mortgages, and this is mortgage advice, but the advice may not apply to your situation. Contact licensed mortgage professionals for specific recommendations before you make decisions about mortgages. You may not agree with Ron, but if you don't, he thinks you're wrong. Oh, and did we say there is a lot of swearing?
Special Angry Mortgage podcast with my special guest, Veronica Hewitt. Veronica, we're not going to go into the name thing. The name thing's too much. Okay. I mean, that was, we had a little talk at lunch. It was a bunch of name stuff, but it's Veronica Hewitt. Veronica
Hewitt.
Yes, Veronica Hewitt. We're not going to do the other name thing that we did at lunch. No, we're not going to do any of that. But Veronica is Senior Vice President of the Mortgage Group, situated here in Ontario. The Mortgage Group's across Canada. Veronica's here. She's Senior Vice President. 1,250 agents?
Yes,
1,250 agents. A very old company, been in Canada for 30 years in the mortgage brokerage business. And Veronica is senior executive of that company. Well-deserved. Veronica's been how long have you been in the mortgage business, Veronica?
Since 2010. That's when I moved over from Royal LePage.
Okay. So, but you started in the sort of real estate mortgage thing as a child, right? Like at 16 or something? Or
I was young. I actually started in sports. Like I worked for the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Wow. Well, really?
When I was recruited into Royal LePage.
Okay.
And I remember the recruiter meeting with me and I said, I don't know anything about real estate. And she said, you don't have to. We'll teach you. And that's been pretty much the path of my career entirely. And
that's actually how Veronica first came to know recruiters will lie to you. They will lie. All right. We got a lot of topics to cover with Veronica. She's a great guest because she's sees the mortgage industry from a very 8,000 8,000 foot level. It's like she's way up in the plane looking over the mortgage industry. And unlike some folks, Veronica's also one of the nicest people in the mortgage business. Not to say she isn't a tough executive, because she is, but she's very friendly, outgoing. She has many causes in the mortgage industry, the promotion of women into the executive ranks in the mortgage industry, and a lot of other good things, and a lot of good for the mortgage industry. But here, we were just talking about it before the podcast started. We were just talking about one of the problems with the guests we bring in is that my staff, like the production staff, the people who deal with them, because we had Francis and Josa in, and Rob Campbell's episode is running this week, and it's Veronica. And they always, here's what I'm going to get. Here's what I'm going to get from my staff. As soon as Veronica leaves, I got to have everybody come into my office and say, oh my God, she's so nice. Now, what's the thing of it is that the comparison is me being an asshole. Okay. Like all the time, 24/7, angry mortgage, angry Ron, always an asshole. And then these other people in the mortgage industry come, and my staff is used to just relentless assholery, okay? And then suddenly there's a breath of fresh air. Oh my God, there's nice mortgage people. Like what, You know what? It's a testament. You're only as good as the people you surround yourself. So you come across as angry, guess what? There might be some nice in there because you have a lot of nice friends. Yeah, I got a lot of nice friends, but it's I'm going to listen to this for 4 hours. Okay. You can tell them even your nice friends get angry sometimes. Everybody gets angry. There's nobody who doesn't get angry. That's just the nature of our business. And as we've said to people before, I put this out in the air and I'm just going to repeat it. People are going to hear it from me a lot. The mortgage business, in a lot of ways, if you're at our juncture in it, in the brokerage side of it, the people who are dealing with the public directly and giving those folks mortgages, getting mortgages for those folks, it's a fucked up business. Okay, it is endless deadlines. Imagine a business where every product is different, because every file is different. There's a pattern, sure, but every file is different. Especially now. Especially today. Every file is different, and there's a goddamn deadline that you have to hit, or people are pissed off at you.
Multiple deadlines. Everybody involved in the process has their own deadline.
Exactly.
And
Multiple deadlines.
As a broker, you're trying to meet every one of their expectations.
And let's face it, worst fucking business. A deadline, multiple deadlines every day, multiple clients, look, it's the terrible, terrible part of this business is these endless deadlines. Okay. And people might shrug their shoulders and say, well, that's your job. You're supposed to know how to do it. Well, fuck all you people who think that. I mean, honestly, it is hard. It is really, really hard. I mean, I would say it is without a doubt the toughest thing about our business.
Absolutely. But it's like playing golf. You have one good swing and you're back in the game. So as soon as that foul closes, you celebrate it and then you're on to the next one.
It's true.
But it's not for the faint of heart. There are a lot of expectations. It's not just the client's expectations. We have a lot of people to broker. I always say to new brokers, you're brokering every relationship. If you think your only transaction is with the client, it's not true. You're brokering the relationship with the underwriter, with the BDM, with the insurer partner, with the lawyer, with the realtor, everybody who referred you that deal. You have a lot of expectations on your shoulders, and that's often hard to meet, for sure.
By the way, for people outside of the mortgage industry, BDM has nothing to do with bondage.
Oh my gosh.
No, well,
business development manager.
There's a couple people we know. It could mean bondage. Okay, it could, but that's what it means. It means the salespeople for the lenders.
I know we start to talk in acronyms so badly.
Yep.
I was aware of this because listen, I was once new to the space, and I remember the first meeting I was in, I heard the word HELOC, and everybody kept saying it. And I had to go home and Google it. And then I was so ashamed that I had to Google it.
I'm the worst on that.
There are so many acronyms.
I use HELOC all the time. I catch myself sometimes to explain it to the public.
Clients don't know what the heck that means.
Nope, they do not.
Not at all.
No. It's a line of credit on your house, but that's secured by your house. But that's what it is. So
even secured by your house, they don't know what that means unless you explain it.
Yeah, that's kind of lawyer talk. You're right.
As Canadians, we weren't taught mortgages. So I think that's the best thing about... you've talked about it in so many podcasts lately. This is a very interesting time in the mortgage space. Again, not for the faint of heart.
Not for the faint of heart, no.
But it is definitely the time to have more value than ever before for clients.
Now, one of the reasons I really wanted to talk to Veronica is that Veronica, unlike some mortgage brokerage operations, which are either big franchise organizations, which are just multiple companies that are on their own, and you're the franchisor, or a franchise or a brokerage owner. You just be a brokerage owner and you've got 30 people or 35 or 100 or whatever. Veronica actually has to worry about 1,250 people. That's a fair statement, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Ask me what keeps me awake at night, everything. Because it's their best interests. It's our partner's best interests. It's their client's best interest. Like there's so many different parts of this that need caring for every single day. And
don't forget the regulators.
And the regulators.
How many regulators you got? Like 10 or 11 regulators?
Exactly. Every single province, because we're licensed in every single province. Yeah. So we're one giant brokerage with a bunch of mini brokerages all across the country, and running ourselves in that same way with different expectations with every regulator. And then, in my role as chair of MPC, I get to spend even more time with the regulators, which is a blessing because I think the regulators are spending more time listening to our concerns than ever before.
So MPC is the Mortgage Professionals of Canada, which is sort of the trade. It's a trade organization. It's a trade group of mortgage people in this country. Not everybody belongs, but most people do belong. So you literally have problems come to you from all directions because there's 1,250 of them. Okay. So just so everybody understands, in the mortgage business, people are licensed by the province, but the brokerage, and this is a huge brokerage, 1,250 people. The brokerage is 100% in charge of all of them. Like Absolutely. The brokerage is the whole thing that you are responsible. If you're a broker, if you're running a brokerage, you are responsible for everything. Like people are licensed individually. There's mortgage brokerage licenses and mortgage agent licenses across Canada. But the person who runs the brokerage is the one where all bullshit goes. Okay. Every problem, every difficulty, the regulator doesn't talk to agents, do they? They don't.
They come to us first.
Come to you. Okay. Right. The consumer will also often come to you.
Absolutely.
Okay? Because, and all these, and Veronica's pays all the commissions to all these 1,200. Well, not herself personally. She's not writing the checks, but she's in charge of all the pay for all of these 1,250 people who want to bitch about it endlessly. Okay. Sure.
And we don't pay them until it's compliant in the eyes of the regulator, in the eyes of our lenders. So there's a lot of due diligence that happens behind the scenes that most people don't understand.
Okay. So let's talk about a few of those things. I like to talk about this stuff with people in the mortgage industry. We will talk about some consumer stuff in a minute, but I do like to talk about how the mortgage industry works.
Yes.
Okay? And what is the thing that is the consistent issue that hits you when consumers reach out? It reaches all the way up to your desk, because I'm not saying like Veronica's not doing every single thing to do with it. She's got employees, she's got people who work for her, she's got AVPs, she's got administration people. You just have to have it, right? You got a whole compliance department. You got all
an amazing
stuff.
Management team that's been there long before me.
Yep. But give us a couple of examples of like problems the consumer comes to you with, because here's what happens, folks. When the consumer can't get satisfaction from who they're dealing with as a mortgage broker or mortgage agent, sometimes they'll jump all the way straight to you, right? That happens?
Absolutely. Now, you're going to call bullshit on me, but honestly, I feel like I have to knock on wood right now, but it's been very few.
Mm-hmm. Because they can't find you. That's the real reason. They can't find you easily, right?
Absolutely. As if you can't find Veronica Love.
Oh, okay? That's true. You can find Veronica.
So, and my name's all over the national website. If anybody gets a call, it's myself, it's Grant Thomas, the founder. Sure. It rolls all the way to the top. But I think because we preach due diligence thoroughly, like we have a mortgage reasoning letter that we do. It's above and beyond what the regulators even require us to do compliant wise to communicate with the client, to ensure that the client understands their mortgage. We do all of that. So honestly, I'm trying to think on one hand over the past, I've been here now 4+ years, of the consumer complaints that have come in. Mm-hmm. Now, some of them give bad Google reviews or something like that, but the consumer complaints that have come up through the regulators has been far and few in between, which is amazing, as you said, for having over 1,000 agents.
That's amazing. Yeah. That's amazing.
But I think what keeps me awake at night, one of the things, if this was a whole podcast on what keeps us awake at night, Ron,
right,
it's what is coming.
So tell me what you think is coming.
Well, with the raising rate environment, people are becoming more uncomfortable in their mortgage than ever before.
Yes, they are.
We are going to hear more sad stories. I already had my first sad story. It was a mother my daughter plays hockey. So I've known her for years. Our daughters played hockey together. I never did her mortgage, but when things started to change in the rate
They know you're in the mortgage business. Yeah.
They know I'm in the mortgage business.
Yep.
She came to me and said, we're in a real pickle. Overextended, second mortgage, debt's high.
Wow.
And nobody would renew them. Okay, so the lender she was with wouldn't renew them. So I looked at all options. I reached out to so many mortgage agents trying to find a solution for this family. I know the family. I know the child. They had to sell their house, and they're now renting.
Jesus. Okay.
And that was months ago.
Just to explain that to people who aren't in the business, we went through a period of time in, say, 2020, 2021, where there was a lot of private second mortgages given out, tons. The valuations in some cases in 2022 fell, and some of these private mortgage people who offered private mortgages, the people who are the lender, they just plain said, I'm scared, so I'm just going to not renew. And the consumer's just going to have to figure it out.
They did a 1 or 2 year term.
Yep.
And now the lender has every right to say, we're not renewing your mortgage. But then where else do you go? Okay. Right? And options were limited. And sadly, in their situation, we couldn't find something that worked.
Yep. That's possible. Yeah.
Lenders just wouldn't buy in. There wasn't enough equity.
Okay. So the other thing that you have to contend with, as you said, happily not so many consumer complaints for this huge group. But
they could come. We're all susceptible to it. And that's why I preach to the agents nonstop, make sure that the consumer understands the mortgage that they're signing up for. Make sure they understand. So the mortgage reasoning letter, maybe I should explain that a little bit, but it's the scenario that they come to the broker with.
Gotcha.
The advice the broker gave, like here's all your different options.
Right.
But then the third paragraph is actually what the consumer decided to do. Because despite the advice you give, Ron, I'm sure you can attest to this, they don't often follow your advice, or not all of it.
Often, in a general way, they do, yeah.
Right?
But
sometimes they're so focused on rate, they'd rather have a good rate than all the mortgage.
Well, everybody
products.
wants a better rate. That's why they're here at Butler Mortgage. Okay, best rate. Okay, we want that, but all right.
Not everybody. So anyways, the final
Mostly
paragraph,
everybody, but anyway, continue.
The final paragraph discloses what their product is, what's involved, and what's the exit strategy. Then they sign that document, and the broker signs that document, and it goes into the file for payroll and compliance. Now, when and if a consumer calls and says, Ron was not diligent, he didn't explain my whole mortgage to me.
Well, Ron's always diligent, but Sam wasn't diligent.
This is just a scenario. Right? This is the situation that we thought we were signing on for. It's so easy to provide that paper document in the transaction to go, here's the scenario, just to keep everybody's brain fresh on it. Because mortgage agents are doing a lot of mortgages too, and so they might forget. So it's a document that definitely revisits the deal and why the options were presented and what options were actually taken.
So for the people who are outside the industry, for the borrowers, consumers who are listening, it's amazing that what Veronica's just said is very, very important. Okay, but the vast majority of mortgage brokers, mortgage brokerage owners, and people who run more big mortgage operations actually don't care. I mean, the reality is that most mortgage brokerages are kind of smaller, independent. They might be part of a big conglomerate of franchises, but they're often smaller organizations. Sometimes they're very small. Sometimes they're 200 agents, but sometimes they're very small. And sometimes they're very specialized. They just do private mortgages. Yeah, okay, for instance, talked about that before. That is like the spawn of the devil. But the reality is that, and I'll just say it out loud, like even before Veronica got there, TMG had an excellent reputation as being a place where we don't want agents who fuck around. Right. We don't want mortgage brokers who fuck with the public, who produce bad documents, phony docs, phony income documents. We don't tolerate it. We're not involved in it. We don't want any part of it. And they always had a great reputation for that. But here's the thing. Just her description of that letter is more than 80% of anybody else would ever do, because there's no documentation.
And it's not required. I mean, consent forms are.
Sure.
It's not required. I think it will become. This is something that's been adopted from one of our agents who worked in wealth management. It was a practice he did every single time. Shout out to Ryan Sims, who teaches us, how to be better. We pull best practices from the agents all the time. So that's my job, is to steal everybody's best practice and make sure it's a practice we all follow for the betterment of this industry.
So the thing to realize, though, is that we're not wealth managers. Okay?
Right,
this
we're
is
not.
Really important.
Neither can we counsel on that.
This is really important. But no, not just we're not wealth managers. Like, the reality of life is these are loans. Okay, so the consumer can decide to make their own decision. So it's great to say, we don't think this is the best move you could possibly make. But we've always, and all our regulators have got to understand this too. Our regulators have got to understand that it's a loan. So if we don't give it to somebody, they'll find somebody else who'll do it. Okay. Not always, but I'd say 95% of the time, they'll find somebody who'll do it. And that's why it's important, even if we don't think that they've made the right decision. Sometimes I tell people, you just need to sell the house. Don't refinance anymore. It's time to sell the house. Like, this is just, there's no future to this. Okay. But they say, no, I'm an adult. I get to decide. It's my house. It's my money. It's my future. I'll decide whether I want to sell it or not, and I'll decide whether I want to refinance it or not. And if I tell you to do this, I expect you to execute the transaction. Okay. We know this is true. Okay.
We know it's true. We also know that you can fire people like that, and someone else will work with them. You're absolutely right.
Absolutely.
But I wouldn't take on that risk. I wouldn't work with somebody like that. I mean, here's the thing.
Sure.
We're in the advice business, but our livelihoods are on the line for it.
Yep.
So I don't know. I'm sure, Ron, you're the last person to believe in vision boarding or anything like that. But I put
vision boarding? Sweet fucking Jesus, vision boarding? Like, there's no vision boarding. There's no vision boarding in mortgages. Jesus Christ. By the way, that's an allusion to a movie that none of you have ever talked about. Everybody who's under 30 doesn't know what that movie is. It's about a women's baseball league of their own, and Tom Hanks played it's a great movie. Tom Hanks played the coach, and he's yelling at one of the players, and they're all ladies, and he's yelling at her, and she starts to cry, and he says, "What are you doing?" There's no crying in baseball, okay?
We should use that. There's no crying in
There's
mortgages.
no crying in mortgages, and there's no fucking vision boarding in mortgages either.
All
okay?
right, so we know your stance on vision boarding, but a couple of years ago, I put on mine, work with people I like.
That's a good one. That's not a vision. That's just a philosophy.
I thought it was just something simple, but it is amazing how that it keeps coming to fruition for me over the past couple of years. And if you really want to, back to you hanging out with nice people, Ron. If you really want to surround yourself with better people, it can happen.
There is also a lot of dipshits in this business too. We both know that, but you're not working with any of them.
No, I try not to. That is a mission of mine for sure.
So, but let's face it, there are compliance issues that come up all the time. There's files that must get escalated to senior people in your organization. They might have to go past the AVP. And I know sometimes agents and brokers reach out to you and they want to argue about a file.
Yep.
So that's tough to manage, right? When I say argue about a file, you're wondering why they did the deal. Is that fair?
On those files, no. I mean, if an escalation comes to me, they truly believe in the file. Right. They've done their due diligence with the client. Okay. Maybe a lender has missed a document or missed an aspect of it, or there's a breakdown. Here's the thing. I used to work for a lender.
Yep.
Okay. I went to that lender because I had worked for a brokerage or a franchise system, and I saw all these deals fall apart on Fridays at the 11th hour of the deal.
Friday's closing day, folks. That's
Friday fires all the time. And I couldn't understand, why do so many deals fall apart all the time, until I went to work for a lender. And then when I really evaluated why these deals were falling apart, 99% of them was a breakdown in communication. And what I mean by that is the client didn't tell the broker the whole story. Broker maybe could have done a better job asking a million questions to pull out the right story. Mm-hmm. The client did a good job of sending the documentation, or the broker forgot to share some of the documentation. The underwriter missed some of the documentation, and they didn't have a phone call to reconnect to understand the documentation. Every single file that truly falls apart, there's been a breakdown in communication. So if communication improves,
by the way, folks, this is really important. Veronica just gave the best, most thorough explanation of why consumers are mad about mortgages, right? Just right then, okay? All the things that can go haywire. Oh, and by the way, everybody works from home now. The underwriter works from home.
And I forgot the lawyer.
The lawyer works from home. Everybody's working from home, okay? And yes, that was a great synopsis of everything that can go haywire at every stage, just a lost document. Now, here's the thing. A lot of people think, well, I deal with the bank. I don't have to worry about this. That's not true at all.
Not true.
The bank can lose shit. The government can lose shit. We just had the government declare today that RBC is buying HSBC, okay? And the Competition Bureau has been working on it for 7 months.
Right.
7 months. They just announced today, we lost the majority. We just lost them. We don't know where they are. We lost the majority of interviews we've had with people about whether this is a good idea or not. So we're going to have to start all over again. That's the government of Canada, folks. Everybody working from home. Oh, yeah, we had them. We lost them. We got to start again. So you understand that wherever human beings are involved, their things can go haywire.
Absolutely.
Okay? That's the way it works.
Absolutely. Even the more technology is invested into our industry, there's still a human being pushing that technology.
Yep.
So it does, there's a million different ways. And, consumers can be better. I mean, how many times do we hear from the client, I don't want to submit that doc. I don't want to, or they send us blurry docs, or they have no idea that they're penalizing themselves. They're slowing down the process. They're bottlenecking our lenders, and they can be in control right from the beginning. I did a mortgage for a girlfriend who, I try not to do mortgages because I oversee a ton of other people who do mortgages. But I had a friend who was very persistent. She had all of her documents. I was hoping to delay her because I was really busy. So I sent her to my website. She filled out the application within 3 minutes. I'm like, shoot. She was too quick at that. Then I gave her a portal to upload her documents to, because we use a portal for that. She uploaded all of her documents within an hour. Everything for both sides, both spouses.
Wow.
I was like, if every client was like her, this industry would run so much smoother. But that's not the reality that we're in.
That's not the reality, no.
And I do think, new agents tolerate too much because they're so hungry for business. So sometimes clients will take advantage of that situation. And here's the thing, clients, you're not doing yourself any favor by not giving the broker the documents they require, because it will just slow down your process. The broker's trying to do what's best for you and get it done smoothly, but lenders need what they need. And you've talked about it in previous podcasts. Rules have changed. There are different hoops to jump through now. The regulators require it. Different governing bodies require it. So that's why if your deal goes sideways, there's probably a bunch of different reasons, but you might be part of it.
Canada loves bureaucracy. That's for sure. We didn't used to. We do now. So here's the thing. We know and this gets talked about in our business every single day, particularly by the public. There's mortgage fraud. Mortgage fraud is almost always, it's 99% the same thing. Occasionally it's fraud for profit, but 98% of the time, it's always the same thing. It is income document fraud. Okay, that is the thing we talk about. That's somebody who's producing fake income information, which, by the way, has now gone batshit crazy in the rental world. Like, seriously, everybody who is trying to lease a property is producing fake income documents.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, sometimes they'll even produce a fake credit bureau. For God's sakes, I mean, it's unbelievable because landowners can't directly access the credit bureau. So they have to depend on the client producing their own credit bureau and handing it to them. And the would-be tenant has found out a way to alter the credit bureau to make themselves look better. So we're in a world today because of, high home prices, high rents, high everything. We're in a world today where people would like to produce fake documents if they think it will get them a better deal. By the way, all these people plan on paying. Maybe not some of the tenants. Some of the tenants are probably there trying to fuck the landlord.
No, but usually homeowners are.
Homeowners are, because what's the point of coming up with the down payment and buying the house, mowing the lawn, painting, doing everything, paying all the property tax, paying all the utilities? What's the point if you're just going to lose it?
And there's still such a pride in home ownership in Canada.
100%. But there's people who feel, for multiple reasons, whether it has to do with the way they make money, whether it's because there's going to be 7 of them living in the house and they all have different jobs and they all have part-time jobs, but they want a way to get the great rate, the bank mortgage, the best possible option. And they produce fake income documents.
Sometimes they don't even need to. I've seen people who have produced fake documentation when they didn't need to. Their income's qualified. There was a solution for them. So I don't know who's filling people's heads.
I've seen more, actually, they needed the fucking fake documents. They didn't need them. Okay, there's lots more, but a few didn't even need them, but somebody talked them into doing it. You're right.
And they get caught, and then they've pooched themselves.
You worked on both sides of the street. You worked as a lender who ran into this, and you work now as a key executive at a big brokerage who have to deal with this stuff. I'm assuming you're dealing with this stuff like weekly, right?
At the brokerage?
Yeah.
No, I dealt with it way more as a lender.
So from your perspective, what's the solution to all this mortgage document fraud?
Well, it's something that actually I'm working on the MPC side. Mm-hmm. So at Mortgage Professionals Canada, we're lobbying. We go to the government, right? We tell them the unintended consequences, I hate to say that, but of what their rule changes have been.
Sure.
And one of the things that they're big on fraud right now. That's obviously we read it in the newspaper, we see it in the media.
Yeah. Who's big on fraud? Be specific. What part of the government is big on fraud?
Oh, gosh. Every part of the government that has anything to do with mortgages. They're decided that this
Department of Finance?
Yeah.
OSFI?
OSFI especially.
OSFI especially, okay.
Yeah,
and,
all the provincial regulators.
All the provincial regulators, okay.
And, we just said there is a magic solution to this.
Literally magic. She's not kidding. It's an instantaneous total solution.
Exactly. So customers will understand this because when they do their taxes, their accountant has access to CRA. Yep. In the mortgage world, mortgage brokers do not have access. So we are truly trusting the documentation the clients provide to us. Yes, we've all been taught how to do our due diligence and read documents, but it's getting more sophisticated by the day.
Yep.
Lenders have extra ability to scrub documents, so they often find things that brokers don't.
True.
So it's not that brokers are trying to do fraudulent business.
Some of them are, but go ahead.
True. There are some bad ones, but most brokers are trying to do their due diligence to make sure that deal is a good, solid deal with good income, but they don't have the line of sight. If we all had access to CRA, if clients had access to their own CRA, if brokers could pull documentation, then this would instantly be gone.
All right. So that's the same thing we talk about. We talk about this all the time. I'm one of the big proponents of this in Canada, along with the association. I think I might have talked to the association over the years about this a few times. But anyway, the point is that there is this magic bullet. There is this solution that's perfect. It is a direct line between CRA and mortgage lenders. Mm-hmm. That's it. Because it's pretty, there's two things that we don't want probably. We probably don't want more individual mortgage brokers having access to this information because we just shouldn't. There is a privacy issue. It's manageable, but there's a privacy issue. So we should have the lender doing it, number one.
Yep, absolutely. Every
time the lender doing it, the person who's really going to give out the money does the checking. And the CRA simply says yes or no. Because people, this is not anybody seeing your tax documents. This is where the whole privacy issue just burns to the ground. Okay. It's not a privacy issue.
No.
It's one line 15,000 on your notice of assessment. That's your net taxable income. And if you've given us a document that says, this is my income, here it is. There's my NOA, notice of assessment. That's what my income is. And the lender pings that to CRA and says, is this true or false?
Yes or no?
Yes or no. That's it. And by the way, remember this. The borrower has voluntarily given this information. This is, they knew. They signed a waiver. They knew that they were giving this information. This is their information that they've given. And all that the mortgage industry is saying, the lender wants to be able to ask CRA yes or no.
Right.
Okay. So that if all the regulators want this, the provincial regulators want it, the federal regulator, Department of Finance would like it, the regulator for the banks, which is the Office of Superintendent of Financial Institutions, if they think it's a good idea, then why the fuck hasn't it happened yet? Okay, so people, they pretend like it's CRA over in the corner saying, well, it's a privacy, we're worried about privacy. Well, that's bullshit. Total bullshit. Like, we're not seeing your whole tax return. Oh, this is going to cost money. Fine. We'll find some money to pay for the bridge. Look, if you can spend $84 million on a app during COVID that didn't work, you can spend $5 million and run this thing because the bridge.
Absolutely.
So there is a solution.
I had the beauty of meeting when we did a Queen's Park Day.
Yeah.
So we often, a group of mortgage
Queen's
professionals.
Park is the Ontario legislature.
Exactly. Okay. So we do that once a year, and we also go to Hill in Ottawa, and we meet with MPs all across, just different jurisdictions. And some of them have nothing to do with the finance world or the mortgage world, and some of them do. But they often lobby on behalf of Canadians. And housing has been the hottest topic for years now.
100%.
Especially now.
Yep.
Well, I had the pleasure of meeting with the woman in charge of red tape reduction. That's actually her job title.
She's the Minister of Red Tape Reduction.
Red tape reduction.
All right, cool.
Probably the best meeting. I've been to a lot of good meetings where more and more government officials are listening and wanting to learn than ever before. She was probably the most impactful meeting, and her staff was. And they were like, there's a simple solution to this. So it is a little bit exhaustive that sometimes we have to continue to meet with different players because government turns over, just like lenders do, just like regulators do. But I will say that the work that the MPC staff is doing, because there's a whole association staff, aside from my volunteer work as chair, aside from the other board members who are volunteers, the staff is meeting with all the right people right now, and there is some progress. I do think that this is a possibility in our lifetime.
Well,
maybe not in 6 months.
I don't have fucking long. Okay, like I'm not going to be around much longer. Your lifetime, maybe. You're young.
Going to see
okay?
it. I'm optimistic.
You're young, okay,
you're going to see it.
Because let's face it, folks. There is no reason not to do. There's no reason not to do this. There's no reason.
It's good for everyone.
It's good for everyone. It's good for the government. It's good for Canadians. It's good for the mortgage industry. It's good for the banks. It's good for everyone. Because never forget this. For every bit of fraud that's done, for every bit of investment, because what happens with fraud is you have to look harder. You have to study it more. You have to do more research. I just read yesterday that some banks are hiring fraud examiners, like special mortgage fraud examiners at fair salaries, okay, to go back over the books of what they've already issued as a mortgage and try to find people who've done the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Okay. I just saw that.
Audit all the book. Think about AI.
Yeah, that costs money. People think AI is free. AI is not free. AI is expensive. It's all expensive. Everything costs money. So if we have a simple one-time solution, because once you build the bridge between the lenders and CRA, that's it. We're just pushing electrons after that. That's nothing.
Exactly.
Okay? And it's instantaneous, it's foolproof, and it eliminates fraud.
Yeah.
And that means, I hate to say people get laid off, but we can lay off a bunch of these auditors. We can lay off a bunch of these fraud experts. We can spend less time, underwriters can spend less time worrying about documents because you press one button and you know that you're safe.
Yeah.
Okay?
It's the biggest fear of brokers too. You submit a deal, day of funding, all of a sudden it gets canceled because there's a misrepresentation. It's the worst word to hear as a mortgage broker.
Misrepresentation.
On the day of funding, it's found. And I don't know if clients understand this, but this is a frustration for brokers because they're not allowed to be told what the misrepresentation is.
Yeah, it's privacy issues. Yeah,
right.
It's privacy issues.
And it's fraud. I mean, we're not trying to teach people how to do fraud. So we don't want to tell the consumer. We don't want to tell what they found. But that, as a lender, that was the hardest part of my job, is when I had to call a broker and say, we can't complete your file. There's been a misrepresentation on it.
Yep.
And the broker's furious because they have a client, maybe a referral partner on the other end, maybe a realtor.
All hell breaks loose.
All hell breaks loose. The deal's now dead. Yep. And another solution has to be found. And the poor broker doesn't even know what's wrong.
It is a disaster. It doesn't happen to us much, but it happens like once or twice a year.
Yeah. Everybody who's been in the industry for any tenure has had at least one happen. And it's shameful because some work really, really hard to make sure that there's never anything that leaks through.
But people in the audience, don't forget, there's a perfect instantaneous solution.
Write your MP.
That the government has been told about for about 10 years now and still isn't doing. But now's the time. Do it fucking now.
We need a collective voice
now.
So back to your notion that not everybody in the mortgage industry is a part of their national association. Mm-hmm. You know, if I was to rant and get angry about anything, I'd like to get angry about that. And the reason being is, as a collective voice, we have more power with the government to make a change. Like I just said, write your MPs. We need consumers to help. But if membership was larger, we would have more. The insurance brokers, they get to lobby and they're very successful. Car insurance brokers, they lobby.
We're talking about the insurance brokers. Holy shit, those guys are good.
Auto financing, they're good.
Those guys are really good.
Other industries are better at lobbying. Yeah. Now, we've come a long way and the MPC team is on a mission, but there is a fact of the matter. There's power in numbers.
I could talk about the auto and home insurance guys for an hour. Those guys have been dialed in. They even know who just really quick. There's something called a bag man for every party in every riding in Canada. The bag man is the guy who goes around and collects the money. Might be a bag woman now, quite likely.
Bag person.
Bag person. Nah, fuck it. Bag woman, bag man. I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to go they, the bag, they.
We'll get you there.
We're not going to go there. Never going to go there. Too old. Going to be dead soon. So the bottom line is this bag man is who collects all the money and legit money. Like it's not against the rules, but makes sure the money comes in. And by the way, in past years, about a quarter of all parties, this is all parties. They don't care about parties. They just want the influence. The bag man, bag person, bag woman is going to be one of these auto and home insurance brokers. Right. Okay. Because they want that deep political influence.
And it matters. It matters for their industry. And listen, a lot of people, and I see it on Twitter. I mean, you can attest to this. You're big on Twitter. The first thing you hear...
I am the king of Twitter.
You're a king of Twitter.
King of mortgage Twitter. That's me.
The biggest thing I see sometimes is people accusing realtors and mortgage agents of only caring for our own profitability.
We care about it a lot, but go ahead.
Some more than others. But it is true. We care about the Canadian consumer, and the Canadian consumer is the one getting screwed in all this.
Absolutely. That is. And the craziest thing is the solution is so simple. The consumer is you have to pay more for your mortgage, higher interest rates to deal with all this crazy fraud shit, which could be solved instantly.
And wait for longer turnaround time on your deals. Wait for everything.
Yeah. All those things.
If you want a painless process, here's one of the best solutions possible.
Now, like I say, you'll talk a little bit there's a lot of mortgage brokers listen to this podcast. Right. So we're going to talk for a minute about things that only mortgage brokers care about. So if you're a consumer, you're just somebody who's interested in mortgages, but you're not in the business, you can probably go out and, have a drink or, if you're on a walk, you can, scoop up the dog poop if you're on a walk or a run, but with your dog. But we're going to talk about things that only mortgage brokers care about. Now, we've chatted before, and something that goes on in our business is mortgage agents. Doesn't happen to me because we're one of the few all salary operations. There's another 3 or 4 of us in the province, but
right,
we're
you
just
pay
all
for
salary.
your staff.
We just pay everybody. It's a salary, and just do your work. Make sure people are happy with the mortgage. Get the best rate. You always get the best rate, and rate's important, no matter what anybody else tells you. But the reality is that mortgage brokers and agents, the people who talk to Canadians about mortgages, they change companies.
Yes.
They do change companies. And, why? The why of it is, well, we're going to talk about the why of it is. And sometimes the why of it doesn't make a whole hell of a lot of sense because, you got established. And don't get me wrong, there are some, it's fair to say, you would agree with this too. There are some shit brokerages, right? That's fair to say.
In every industry, there are good brokers, there are good realtors.
No, brokerages, like the people who run the brokerages.
Every side of it, there's good and bad.
Right. So Veronica doesn't like to say this, but there are some shit brokerages. There are brokerages who are just around to steal from new agents.
Well, and the saddest thing is agents don't know the right questions to ask.
Exactly, because they're new.
If anybody's still walking their dog, Canadian consumers, all licensed agents have to hang their hat with a brokerage in order to do mortgages.
Brokerage is the key element to the whole system.
So when they get licensed, then they have the choice of choosing where to hang their license.
Exactly.
And that decision is sometimes made geographically. They see a storefront in their hometown and they just land there. Sometimes they get the best brokerage just by accident. Sometimes they get the worst one.
The shit one.
And I will say that, they don't even know until they've been in it a few years and had some bad experiences. They don't even know what they're missing out on, or what income potential they could have, or what support they could have, or what access to lenders. They have no idea what they're missing out on.
Because Veronica doesn't like to talk about the very worst thing, I'm going to talk about the very worst thing. There are some brokerages that are just built to steal from their agents, and particularly from new people. So they're built to say, okay, we're going to recruit the hell out of people. We're going to go to the course. Like there's a course. We're going to be standing outside the hallway when you write the test.
And it's a numbers game for them.
And it's a numbers game. But they're also advertising all the time as a source of great wealth and promising vast commission income. But what they really are they're just trying to fuck new people out of money. New people who just got their license out of money. So they'll charge them for a course. You know this exists. They'll charge them for their own training. They'll charge them for credit bureaus. They'll charge them for everything under the sun. They'll charge them a desk fee. They'll charge them for everything in the world that you could possibly charge them to suck the money out of these poor people, and they'll just keep telling them this is the way the business works.
Not only that, I've seen some doozy contracts with auto renew clauses.
Oh my God.
I've seen, I had one poor agent call me. I remember it was July 1st. And he said, I've been hanging my license with a brokerage for 1 year. Yep. I'm a new agent. I'm not getting the support I need. I'm just spinning my wheels. I need to do better for my clients. And I said, well, the first question I always ask is, are you under contract? What does your contract look like? Are you even able to move? Are you portable? And he said, yep, my contract just ended on June 30th. It was like July 2nd. He's like, I'm a free agent. What he didn't read in his contract, when he resigned, he discovered there was an auto renew clause, like a gym membership.
He'd missed by a day.
He missed by a day.
Jesus.
And what resulted is that brokerage charged $200 a month just to hang your license there.
It's Premier Fitness. If you miss by a day, you're in for life.
You're in for another 12. So the broker owner or whoever he resigned to said, that's fine. We'll take your resignation, but you owe us $1,200 like upfront.
Jesus.
And I said, oh, I'm so sorry. I'll see you in your brand new broker, right? Barely having any business, hadn't had a successful first year. And I said, I'd love to support you. I'd love to get you up and running, but I understand that's a fee. I will give him kudos for this. He said, listen, I've already wasted a year. This is a tough lesson to learn, but I'm going to pay that penalty and move on to somebody who can support me better. All
right. So we're even going to talk about some other, but then there's also the side of this where the agent and the broker makes mistakes about what they're doing. So, because let's face it, in a commission business, the way brokerages work, not ours, not my brokerage, because we're all salaries, and not a couple of others, but mostly the way brokerages work is they recruit an agent and they take a slice of what the agent makes. So the agent's out there finding people, doing the mortgages, submitting the deals, getting it underwritten, getting it finalized. They're creating advertising they're maybe creating relationships with realtors, and it might even be family and friends, okay, that they're doing mortgages with. And then the brokerage takes a slice off the top.
Right.
Because the brokerage has all the compliance work to do. Brokerage has to supply the website. They got commission work. And by the way, something very important that people don't realize, the brokerage supplies the lenders. Lenders don't work with individual agents. Lenders work with brokerages.
Right.
And if you're a big brokerage like Veronica's, it's got 1,200 agents, they got every single lender.
Got access to all the lenders.
All the lenders. And they got access to the best deals from all the lenders. Because let's face it, if you're a guy who says, yeah, hi, Mr. Bank, I'd like to do mortgages with you. I'm a new guy, and I think I could do 3 mortgages this year. What do you think? So the bank says, yeah, well, don't let the door hit your ass on the way out. We're not interested in your 3 fucking mortgages. Get out, okay? So you must have an organization that has got the reputation and got the ability to work with all the lenders. That's how everybody has to get started.
Yeah.
And some have, well, you tell the story about the people who switched and end up with hardly any lenders.
Oh, well, I hear this story all the time. So, this is going to strike a chord with you. Rate isn't everything.
It is actually, but go ahead.
But I would say, it's interesting because a lot of people in the industry will bash Mr. Ron Butler because you're so rate and driven.
And I fucking hate all of them anyway, so it's perfect.
You'll probably beat them on rate with the mortgage, right?
I'll beat the shit out of them.
Okay. But here's the same agent who will bitch about you competing them on rate for their clients will come to me and say, but I can get 5 bips more if I walk across the street.
Now, this is really important for everybody to understand. Bips is a basis point.
Right.
It's 100th. Listen carefully. 100th of 1%. 100th of 1%. So it's like 500ths of 1% we're talking about here.
You're going to make me even more angry on this topic.
Yeah, go ahead.
So they'll say, Veronica, I can get more across the street.
More compensation.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm like, but you've done no volume yet. You have no clout in this industry. Like, you have no bandwidth. You haven't even had the experience. I'm willing to give you access to these lenders and train you and support you and be totally in alignment with you. Yeah, but I'm like, you're the same person who bitches when Ron Butler steals your client over a better rate. And here
Which
you are.
I do consistently. Go ahead.
Here you are finagling me for a better rate, essentially.
Yeah.
It's the most ironic thing. Number 2 that I want to rant about is agents who are in the business of contract negotiations, because basically a mortgage is a contract.
Yeah.
Right? So they're constantly looking at the contract, the prepayment privileges, the penalties and everything, and explaining that to their contracts. Yep. Yet they don't read their own agent contract and see what the penalties are, or what the portability is, or what the ramifications are when you leave that brokerage or when to leave that brokerage.
Yep.
It
all true.
Boggles my mind how mortgage agents, I mean, maybe we're guilty of looking after clients first and not ourselves in our own business. But what I love to do is support people in going, let me focus you in on your own business. My son recently said to me that he wants to be a mortgage broker.
Uh-oh.
Okay. He's 18. He's going off to university to McMaster in September. And he's going for business with the whole track record of possibly getting into real estate or mortgages. And he said to me, but you know what, Mom, I figured out you don't have to go to university to be a mortgage broker.
Well, that's true.
It's true. It's a fact.
Yep.
But here's the thing. I think if you really want to understand all the components and all the possibilities of a mortgage business, you need that schooling, you need that education. Or if you haven't got it, you need to align yourself with people who understand the business side of it. And unfortunately, a lot of the people who enter this industry don't seem to spend any time on the business side of it. So I see revenue leakage, like you talked about. Maybe they're upcharging on all of your industry expenses. Maybe they're charging you an empty hang your hat fee here, or whatever they want to call it.
Desk fee. They call it a desk fee.
Fee, like whatever fee they want to call it. But it's amazing how I find agents don't ask me the right questions, the questions I would be asking if I was choosing a brokerage.
So, and everything Veronica says is true. So, because even though we don't operate this way and really have hardly ever never operated this way, really, I've talked to agents my whole life, 29 years of talking to mortgage people in the mortgage industry. And there's always a lot of people who want to switch brokerages to make a tiny bit more of a cut. Like, if there's $1,000 to be made in a mortgage and I'm making 900, I want to make 920. So I want to find some brokers going to allow me to make 920. I don't want to leave the people I'm with. So bottom line is, doesn't always work out, because maybe the people who say they're going to give you 920 are going to find a way to bite your ass and take it out in a different way.
You're probably going to lose it somewhere else. Listen, every brokerage needs to be profitable.
100%.
So all you have to...
Well, wait a second. Not all brokerages are profitable. Pineapple. But anyway, not all brokerages are profitable, but
I knew there would be a moment in this podcast where I had to say, Ron,
stop it, Ron.
I think that that is fair. As an agent, you need to understand that that's the business. The margins are very lean. There's not a lot of money to be made. Every agent that becomes successful wants to be a broker, then wants to open their own brokerage. Some do, and then realize their volumes go down, and they would have been better off keeping their independence as an agent and just looking after clients. So it is not a job for the faint at heart. Like, I have to do a shout out to Gerald Cron. He's taught me everything I know about compliance.
I know Gerald. He's a good guy.
Yeah.
Good guy to have a drink with.
If anybody needs to know more about compliance, Gerald's your man. He has probably researched more about the regulator than anybody in this industry. But there is reasons. There's risk. There's things that keep us up at night every day, and the oversight.
It's all true.
There's the lender relationships, as you talked about, the negotiation with them.
Very important. Having
to keep them happy when efficiencies start to dip or when they rise. That is my job as executive in my company, is to look after the agent's needs business-wise. But still, every day I sit across the table from somebody who doesn't even understand that value, and they say, well, why will I give you even 5%?
Sure, because Veronica was kind and didn't mention the fact that sometimes these agents are tempted to join another brokerage. And then when they join the other brokerage, they find out that brokerage only has 3 lenders because they've been cut off by 15. And they also aren't top status, so they don't get enough pay. And it was just a bunch of bullshit.
Yeah. So who cares about top comp?
Yeah.
If you have no access to lenders to get any solutions for your clients.
Happens every day.
You're getting 0 of 0. right?
100%
so,
correct.
I mean, if you do fund one file, then great, but you've probably lost about 8 other files that you could have done if you were with a brokerage that alignment to more lenders with more escalation policies.
Better pull.
More clout.
Better clout with each.
As you said, TMG's over 33 years. I mean, I didn't build the cloud. I didn't build it. I'm just building upon it. But there is a reputation there that matters to lenders. And lenders, you have deep relationships with your lender partners. It matters.
I'm old.
It matters, right? If you want to, it's a partnership. So it's a partnership between the agent and the brokerage. And if you don't have that partnership, you should question it.
Absolutely true.
If you don't understand your own pay stub, you're in the business of evaluating your clients' pay stubs. But I have so many brokers who are like, I'll say, well, what's this fee for? What's this fee for? What? I don't know. How much do you pay for E&O insurance? Because that's a part of being licensed. Yep. You need insurance.
Errors and omissions, yep.
I don't know what my insurance costs. I don't even know how I pay. I think my brokerage pays it for me.
No, it's deducted right here. Look, here's where they took it.
Right.
Yep,
are you getting taxes taken off your commissions? Are you paying royalties?
Because you may get in trouble with the tax man. That could happen too.
So, you really have to find, if you don't know
tax woman now. Tax person. Okay.
If you don't understand these things, it's okay. You might be new to the industry, but you just have to find people who do understand it and align yourself there.
Veronica, time has flown by. Thank you so much for coming in. I love talking to Veronica. She's got the deep knowledge of the industry, which, by the way, not everybody has. She really cares. And she also understands how to run a business where everybody wins, because you keep your agents for a long time generally, don't you?
I do. I try to. But it is the win-win that matters.
Yeah. And again, I'm going to have to leave now. I'm going to get up from the studio. I'm going to go out to the office. I'm going to have to listen to 4 hours of all my staff telling me, why can't you be more like these nice people? Why can't you be more like Veronica? Because I am Ron fucking Butler. I am the angry fucking mortgage guy. That's it. Thank you, Veronica. Thank you very much.
Thanks for letting me be a little bit angry with you today.
Oh, you were so not angry. Thanks.
Thank you.
If you like the pod, well, don't just sit there. Go to YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and all the other ones and like the pod. And don't forget to subscribe so we can keep being angry at mortgages and swearing about mortgages. Angry Mortgage could use your support.